Coach, just obviously you've moved on to the next week, but just maybe something from the game tape you can take away to kind of apply to this next game.
Yeah, I think there's tons of learns. I think there was one of those things where, I think at the end of the day, all the credit goes to UCLA, but they were tougher in tough moments than we were. And tough just doesn't mean physical tough. It's executing, it's mental toughness, it's doing your job, it's relying on your technique, it's an effort and a strain to finish. They did it more times than we did. And I don't think we had enough of an attitude going into the fourth quarter that we were winning the game. We were winning the game, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. We were bleeding. We made just enough plays. We just had a big drive at the end of the third quarter, and I don't think that, that mentality in our body language was there either. So give credit to them. Obviously, I think in the moments we didn't rely on technique, especially offense up front. And, we were under siege a little bit, and we just didn't execute. And a lot of those things we saw were on us, and I look at myself first and how I need to get those guys to execute their jobs and their buy-in better because I think we'll always be a unit that has to really do our individual job really well to have team success, and there just wasn't enough of it.
Just kind of watching the tape, what was kind of your take on the tackling, especially kind of wrapping up? I know there was the one play where the tight end bounces off one of the DBs. Just kind of what was your take on wrapping up?
A lot of what I call shot tackling. And it's exactly it. When you shoot your gun, it's either going to go bang or it's not. And sometimes those lead to good, big things. We talk about knocking the motors off of these guys. The tailback was big, physical dude, the tight ends, but it's got to come with arm wrap and squeeze. And we'll see another bunch of big, tough running backs this week, and we got to get it corrected. So, as you go throughout the season, one time to really work it is game day when you really get physical, but we got to take to task some of those little drills and execute those things.
After the games, you said that Cam having to scramble so much was everything. When Cam came in, he said that had no effect on his performance. When you watch the tape back, what's the balance of hey, Cam was in trouble versus he had some of that fault as well?
I think every piece of our offense owned that this morning. I think that was pretty clear to see when we watched the film. Cam and his progressions, yes, I got to get it from here to here, and I got to go through that quickly. I got to stand in there and take some shots. Our aim points at the offensive line and being tough and physical enough to finish and then running the correct routes and being in the right spots at times. So it was multi-level. That's what I thought after the game, and that's what the tape really, really showed on offense.
Any update on how Lincoln is doing?
Lincoln's going to work to ground running tomorrow, so we'll see kind of how he reacts to that. I've always said it's a hard position on the high ankle, but we'll see how he responds. But, we're going to wait till he's 100% and ready to go.
So is he going to be okay for Saturday, you think? Or do you what's kind of
we got to see how the week goes. Yeah.
And what's the scout on Arizona?
Arizona, to me, is the most improved team in the league. I've watched pretty much every team, and I think it's evident and it's obvious. The last two results against top 10 teams are no fluke. You might be able to do that one week, but to do it back-to-back weeks, especially on the road at USC, a lot of credit to Jed Fish and his staff. Got a lot of respect for what they're doing, and it just shows when you pour into it. Facility-wise, resource-wise, coaches-wise, personnel-wise, they're getting the results and the fruit of their labor. So I think this is a very talented team. I think they're playing the game the right way, and they are vastly improved, I think, in all three phases of the game, especially at the line of scrimmage. I think their offensive front on offensive line is playing at a really, really efficient to effective level, and I think their defensive front is creating a lot of different type of havocs that are allowing them to play in a lot of these football games. So I think the challenge is real. I think they're an explosive team, and the best part is now this one's back here at home, and we got to protect the den, and we got to be able to bounce back and respond. And it'll be about us this week and having a great Tuesday practice and really setting the table for the focus of what we need to do better.
And then, Coach, in the last 48 hours, have you seen your team respond after maybe a frustrating loss there where it was right there for the taking if one or two mistakes don't happen?
Well, I think it's one of those things, it starts with the coaches, on Sunday, and then, we get a chance to see them Monday morning and, talk to Coach Ian Keone just about our lift. They had great energy. They were, putting it to task. And I think that's what you want guys to do. And like I said, after the game, it takes mature competitors to do that, to watch yourself make mistakes or not perform your best, but also discover why that happens. And, teams don't stay the same. They either grow or get better. Like which one do we want to do? So we have an option, and we're going to need to get better to handle the slate of the week to week of this conference. So that's what we saw so far. And then Monday afternoon, we always roll on to the next opponent, and that's when you really feel kind of the winds of change, and we're attacking a new mission.
Looking ahead to Arizona here, not sure what their quarterback situation is going to be. Obviously, you're very familiar with Jaden, or it might be their young guy. How difficult is it when you don't really know who their QB is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't play the young guy. I mean, this guy has been as efficient and effective as anybody in the country the last 2 weeks. I mean, he is operating the offense at a really, really high level. They're similar yet different. Both can really throw the ball. Seven's going to have more off-script plays and do a little bit different things like Cam does, where 11 really operates in the framework of the offense and can really run, but takes off in normal escape patterns, not like what you see Cam do and running around different things. So I think they're both very talented. They both can really throw the ball, and they're both operating, at high levels. So prepare for both of them, but you don't see a drop-off at all with the young kid in there.
Coach, I'm just wondering, obviously, trying to go out and win every week, but just what you feel like you need to see, effort-wise, mentality-wise this Saturday from the team to just kind of know that you're back on track?
Well, I think defensively it is about execution, and I think that's been kind of a small staple as we've seen 5 games now in a body of work of just lacking communication at times. We did have an opportunity in that game to win a 17-10 defensive struggle battle, and we've done that before. It wasn't executing enough good moments, communicating, and really being tight on our job there. That's what the biggest thing I see defensively. Just the communication aspects of these offenses got us off kilter a little bit, and it has been throughout the season. So we got to tighten that up as coaches. And it isn't much about the plays. It's about the adjustment and the communication aspect of it. And let's be honest, we got humbled. Okay, it's okay. It happens. Back to the work. And that's part of it. That's not going to change our belief in what we're doing, our energy to how we do it. But there's a toughness aspect I've said before that our team needs to play with. And UCLA beat us in that realm on one day. And we got to respond to that and get back to who we are.
And then obviously the big game for Capenna, and he gets kind of recognized, PFF Team of the Week. And I'm just wondering from him, it was more so than just the pick 6, but also the big hit, the sack, and these moments, just where you've seen him kind of grow the most this year and just what you kind of expect of his development going forward.
Well, I think he's a very explosive player. I think we've always known that ever since the moment we recruited him. And like I said, that nickel position for us is a very versatile position. Him and Jackson are both playing split in time, and Capenna's doing a great job. And obviously the sack, he had the sack, right? And then the pick, it's one of those things as a coach, you tell your guys never jump, right? Never jump. Don't jump. And all of a sudden, yeah. Then we're both sprinting down the sideline. I got a penalty, a warning on that one. But I did run about 4.99 down the sideline. I still think I can break 5. But proud of him. He's been working hard. I think we put a lot on that position mentally. So I think as you grow throughout your career, you're always way more comfortable. I think as you go through it, and I think that's where he's getting. But he's definitely a playmaker, and I think that showed on Saturday.
Jake, it's always interesting to see how teams react after they lose for the first time in the season, after you've got off to the great start. Are there things that you have to do to make sure this team is mentally, you talked about the physical, we got to tackle better, that kind of, but are there things you have to do mentally coming off a loss that you don't have to do off a win?
Well, I think the learns are harder off of a loss. I think you sometimes you can take it more personally than you do than when you win. But we've always been very process driven around here. So it is about 1-0, and it is about the work every week, regardless of how we feel. It's standard over feelings. So it's the standard of the work. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. You got to bank it, and you got to work towards a new challenge. I think that's the important part mentally for young people to make sure we're doing that. Coaches, I think. We're ultimate competitors too. You got to make sure you turn the page because, at the trek of this journey throughout this season, there's no one that you can relax on. And I think that's the challenge that gets you right back into competitive, spirit where you're just like, let's go. New task, new challenge. What do I need to do to be successful now?
That being said, the fact that you have a tough game every week. There are no easy games in this conference. You keep looking at it and thinking, oh, that's an easy one, and 2 weeks later it's not. Does that help guys prepare even though it's a difficult game? They know we can't look past anybody?
I mean, you say no because you got to take everybody the same and at face value. But, I mean, yes. I mean, perception is real. So how we do view opponent and what our heart says we view those guys as normally does show up on that scoreboard, right? But it also shows up on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? Practice execution equals game reality. I've said that up here many times. So our guys got to get back to the work, and, we showed them that this morning. Us not doing something against UCLA immediately followed by the practice clip of us not doing it. And it's one of those pictures that you need to see is that this is why you do it. So we try to do that in a bunch of different realms, and that game's behind us now, and we're moving forward.
Jake, sorry if this is kind of digging because the recent questions, but you said earlier humbled, the team was humbled. I guess how would you say the guys are reacting? Like, is there a different feel around the team after the result?
I mean, we've all lost, and we've all lost at one point. I mean that. So disappointment's good. Like, let's harness that. Let's harness the fact that we fell short, and let's identify why that happened. Like, that's the point to the coaches. So you can feel one way or the other about it, but at the end of the day, you realize every detail matters. In a close game, they especially matter. So live in the details. We never want to go back to them because we always stay knowing that those things are important. So they respond, typically, young people, they respond how we respond. Right? I told them I'm more energized than ever. Let's go. Let's go. It's a new challenge. It's a new mission.
How big is it for you guys to be back home after something like that?
Well, I think it's big. I think it's been real. We went 3 straight at one point at home, and I thought that was awesome. But to have homecoming here at our place, I'm expecting Giesa Field to be packed and be rocking and be a huge advantage for us. Because I think you start watching on all these teams in the league and who's beating who, a lot of common denominators are who's at home. So going on the road in this league is going to be difficult, and Giesa Field needs to be that this week. I'm talking about our student body, our alumni, everyone packing the stands, and let's make it a real environment on Saturday.
Did you notice whether or not Deion Henley had gotten any louder when you saw him on Saturday?
I think like he's gotten a little bigger, and I know he's got a bigger gold chain around him. I was like, dude. But just great to have, old alumni back on the sideline, and really proud of that kid. And I just think he's so pleased with his decision to come here and the experience that he had here.
We talked a few times about, freshmen redshirting and so on. Are there any non-freshmen you guys are planning on redshirting this year?
No. No, I'm trying to think. So that was a non-freshman redshirting. Guys that have played in the past but have the red shirt still. I'll have to do some research on you. I'll get back to you if there is, but no.
And then do we have a Pullman Junior Greyhounds update from this week?
Oh, that was a big victory. 2 undefeated teams, the Greyhounds versus Moscow, and 13-0 squeaker. So now we're in the championship game. It's a rematch. It's a big week. It's a grind out. It's hard to beat the same team twice. So I'm trying to get them humble. I got to get back to practice. I told them tonight's practice better be hopping. So they'll be ready.
UCLA is probably the best pass rush in the country with Latu and the Murphy guys and just everybody there. How much of with the way the offensive line struggled do you see as hey, that was a great pass rush versus we also have some things to correct whether or not we're playing them again?
I think we got a lot of pride in performance too. So we respect her. I mean, what you said is absolutely accurate. And, they just kept waving them in. But we got a lot of pride in to say, hey, we thought we were targeted in a lot of spots of where we knew we were going and didn't execute our technique. And I always say, yeah, credit to them for sure. I mean, those guys, probably everyone you mentioned, an NFL player. But we have pride in what we can do too and how we need to be better at doing it. So, and more importantly, Greg, consistently doing it. I thought that was probably the biggest issue. A little bit more consistency is needed, and we've identified those things.
Any big changes to the depth chart this week?
No, feel pretty solid. It was a physical game. I mean, there was a lot of bumps and bruises, and we might have some guys in and out of practice, but hopefully we'll get them back for Saturday.
I'm just wondering, considering the fact, the game, obviously UCLA, tough opponent there, but some of the mistakes like the fumbles, down in the red zone and in plus territory, is there almost something kind of encouraging to that, knowing that some of those mistakes that you can fix from your own team could have really propelled you in that game?
Well, I think, the mistakes, you can't turn the ball over 4 times against a really good team. Flip side, defense, adversity did a good job responding, keeping us in the game. The field goal block unit alone kept 7 points off the board. And it's one of those things, like, you block it, that ball bounces differently. Maybe that's a game-changing play. You win and lose as a team, and there's ebbs and flows too. I mean, we've been in times where you can't stop a nosebleed and the offense keeps scoring, and vice versa. So it's one of those things about, I meant it, staying in the fight. But those are little details, you feel like you're going to go score on the Cam Johnson play, and, you fumble. And Carlos, just one of those things that, lost a little train of thought and focus. And I thought that second quarter, we were moving the ball. And it just came to a stop just off a couple of mistakes. And we got to be a little bit tougher. That's what I'm talking about in that toughness aspect.
Just any reaction to, the big ranked win for Wyoming, getting votes in the AP poll this week?
The Cowboys. You bring up the Wyoming Cowboys? I love that. Once a Cowboy, always a Cowboy. I'm very proud of those guys. I am. If you ever got an opportunity, I know the Cougs did in 18 when I was there, to go there. It's a tough place. 2 monster wins. Shout out to Coach Bull. I wouldn't be here without him. And appreciate you bringing that up. Heck yeah, I text those guys and fired up to get off the plane and see that they got to see the end of that thing and they won the game. And that's what football is all about. You never know each week.
Didn't see Coop out there on Saturday. Any update on him?
Yeah, it was a disappointing one coming off the bye week, little hamstring strain, and just prevented him from being out there, and really missed him. I think it was one thing that was pretty evident watching through the tape. The versatility and toughness that he brings to our offense is real. So we need to get him healed up and get him back.
Cowboys talk hurt me there.
Yeah.
Coach, there's talk of NIL reform right now. Just what are your thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I think federal legislation is the way to go. So I know this one was NCAA proposed, and we'll see kind of how that always works, right? Because every state's different. Some states are already doing a lot of the things that they're already talking about. So I don't know enough of the details about it, but we need reform. We need to create better environments around the player. I mean, there's reports out there of a lot of different people taking advantage of these contracts and all that type of stuff. I've always been a fan of NIL, right, and allowing the student athlete to, benefit from the monster of college football and the money that it is. And I think the more we can aggressively support the players, I think the better it gets.